Hello, everyone. Welcome and good whatever moment of this wonderful day you are enjoying on your time zones. Happy good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, or late good night, or very early morning, depending on where you are in this world watching us or listening to us. This is almost the last conversation of our April series, and today we will be talking about building high performance teams. And we will take a look at the strategic and tactical approach for HR. My name is Minola Jacques. I will be your co host for the next hour. As usual, we have Jessa working her magic backstage, keeping us safe from all things tech and logistics. And we have an amazing lineup of speakers waiting to get on stage. So, Jessa, please bring them on. And while they pop up on our screens, I will just like to welcome everybody in the audience and encourage you to first do continue to let us know where you're watching us from. And this way we will travel around the world through your notes. And also, please consider the comments, your conversation space, and consider this topic open to your insights and to your thoughts and to your experiences just as much as it is our speakers. And this is the best way in which you can keep the conversation alive and also help us grow as a community. Now, we have a very short hour ahead of us. I always say that Hacking HR hours should have more than 60 minutes. And we will start off with first, just a very, very quick logistics ask for help from the panelists. If you could stay on mute when you are not contributing, and this way you will keep us safe from background noise and other interferences. And in all honesty, that's also my secret cue that you want to jump into the conversation. So thank you. We will start with the round of intro. And what I will do, I will pass the e-mic around clockwise as you are on my screen. And I will ask you to first kindly introduce yourselves. And also, I am super curious. What about this topic made you say, I'm going to take 1 hour of my time and energy and bandwidth and be there for this conversation? Jennifer, it's so good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Jennifer Watson, VP of HR at a startup tech company, an executive coach. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because I've done it wrong. And I have done it wrong a lot. And so, a lot of the roles that I've taken on have been, things I've never done before. And that's one of the things I love doing because I always figure it out. But anytime I can, share words of wisdom from my mistakes, I am happy to. And since the beginning of my career, I've helped a lot of leaders along the way kind of figure it out also. So.
Thank you so very much. Angela, good to see you. Welcome.
Hello from beautiful Vancouver, BC. I'm on the traditional lands of the Coast Salish peoples. I'm very glad to be here today. Jennifer, I love what you said. I love it that you haven't done it, that you've been doing it wrong. What made me take the hour today? Oh, sorry, I should introduce myself. I'm Angela Champ. I've been head of HR in many industries, including banking, insurance, construction, and engineering. I'm also the author of The Squiggly Line Career, How Changing Professions Can Advance a Career in Unexpected Ways. And one reason why I wanted to be on this panel is because I believe that when a person is set up to be high performing, competent in their job, that it actually increases job satisfaction, engagement, and overall well-being. And if you can create high-performing teams and organizations, people want to work for a winning organization. And if you can help employees and teams be high-performing, you end up not only achieving the organization's goals, but you have happier employees because they want to be there. And that's my motivation.
Thank you so very much. And you, Celine, how wonderful to have you with us in this conversation.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, everything is loud and clear.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me, Angela, Jennifer. My name is Yusin Patil Young, and I am joining you from Chicago, Illinois this morning. It's still a little cool, rainy, but I'm looking forward to the spring weather. So my background goes back 15 years in HR. I've had the opportunity to lead and structure and build departments. And Angela, I love what you said. I've done it wrong. And so, but I've also had the opportunity to lead and coach a lot of leaders how to do it right. And at this point, I want to set my teams up for success. And then, so that's why I'm here today.
I love the energy you all have around the topic, and I believe that's the best introduction ever moving forward. Now, I sometimes say that serendipity is how the universe gives us a hug, and I think it's serendipity at its best. I literally jumped on this link from a conversation I had at work at my full-time job around team, building a team and building team cohesion and team development. And oftentimes in my work with other teams, we end up looking at, but wait a minute, before we talk about the team, why don't we take a bit of time to see what image and definition and projection of a team we all have in our mind, and see, do we have any overlap? And also the question is there, do we need to be a team? Is that something that is an absolute must depending on the team image that we hold in our head? So before we jump into high performance teams, I would invite each of you to take a few minutes and really talk about how has this picture and definition and an aspiration of a team has come to mean for you, and how has that transformed? And I will leave the question there. I will not call out, and we will consider this a dress rehearsal for the unmuting competition moving forward. So please jump in as inspiration strikes. Angela.
Nola, I love that you said that, because I worked in organizations where there's been difficult team dynamics. And one thing that we need to look at is sometimes people call themselves a team because they report to the same manager. They may be doing disparate or completely different work. They do not have the same goals other than the high level organization goals. And so the manager struggles to have team cohesion because they say, oh, these people aren't working together. And so I think the important one starting point, and maybe where you were going, Manola, is what is your definition of a team? Is it because you all report to one manager? That's not a team. That's just a group of people that sit together or work under one manager. Because a team could be cross-functional. You can be in different departments, but you might be working on one project, one initiative, or one common goal. And that's what makes you a team. And I think that that's the image that you need to start with, which are you actually a team or just a group of people that report into one person?
Angela, I love that you said that, because I think through, if you work at a larger company, I think that who reports to who kind of becomes easier, just because you're so big and it's a common sense of, oh, whose team are you on and what do you report up through? And if, I worked at a Fortune 91 company, and that's kind of what we had, because you didn't know how to introduce yourselves almost. But when you go to a smaller company, it does feel more like the company as a whole is a team, in the right way. But I think regardless of how you identify as a team, one of the big things that I try to think about is however the team is functioning, taking a step back and saying, okay, usually if the team is chaotic or, not performing or whatever it is, also saying, okay, who is the unspoken or spoken leader of that team? And usually that person is also reflecting in how the team is functioning, whatever that looks like. So that's very interesting as well.
I agree. I think for me too, has been is that, we all report to the same manager. So it's expected that we're a team, but I've had to kind of take a look at what are the individual goals that we have in that role, even though we report to the same manager, and how does that individual goal then equals to a team effort? And then, so just kind of peeling back the layers to say we report to the same manager, we do have individual goal, but we also have a goal that we're all going to be part of. And that's what, for me, has made the team effort. In addition to that, I think the managers too also have to really be very specific, so that when an individual joins, their team or their group or the department, that they do articulate, the members of the team and recognize that member as a new team member. And, here are the individual goals, but together as a unit, here are our efforts. And so I think it's important for the leaders to acknowledge and recognize the individuals and make them feel part of the team, because I think that always works when we're acknowledged and that we feel like we're part of the community.
Well, let's assume that we've done this work and we agreed what a team is and what the individual aspirations for that team, were agreed on, formalized. What does a high performance team look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And I would like to build into this question a point that Anna Nielsen, thank you so much, Anna, raised in the comments. Do you think it's important to build a team that has skills the manager does not have? So, what makes a team a high performance team? And if we can touch on that point brought up by Anna, extra points will be available. Jennifer, would you be the pioneer for this one, please?
Why not? So I think there's a few points to a high performing team. I think one, the team has to be real. I think they need to have a compelling direction and enabling structures. And shamelessly stole that from Leading Teams by J. Richard Hackman. I think those are three of the big things that I always like to follow. And when you think about those 3 points and really take a step back to the question asked, all of those things are determined by the leader. They have to be real. The leader has to lead with that first. They have to have structures that the leader has to communicate, like it was said earlier. And then they also have to have compelling direction, which the leader has to also communicate themselves. So yes, I think that you should have people on your team that have all the skills you don't, that can do the work and provide feedback for things that you're not good at. I think the times that I've had the most compelling and high performing teams is when I was leading and they were doing, or they were speaking up and helping me understand. And it was a conversation always. They were way smarter than I was. I will say the best teams I've ever had have been probably people that, I've seen be promoted way past me. I tell them all the time, I'm probably going to work for you one day, because that's how you're going to get it done. So.
Wonderful. Let's see where we go next. Yuselin, would you like to build on this?
Sure. Absolutely. So, high performance team for me, I think one is diverse. I love the different perspective of individuals, whether it's work related, culture related. That different of perspective is very important to the team. We don't want the same person having the same ideas all the time. Secondly, communication. I think, as Angela alluded to have good communication to be able to articulate and guide the team to their task, and then be there as that support, that integrated support when and as needed. And for me, I absolutely always want individuals who are more fancy than I am because I believe in building a person so that one day they're able to take over my role, to be able to do the same job and beyond. And like Angela said, I may end up working for you one day or having you to consult on a project. And I think those different skill set that a manager does not have brings the innovation to the teams by having that diverse group of individuals.
I agree with the points that Jennifer and UC have brought up, and I'll start with Anna's question first. Do we think it's important to build a team that has the skills that a manager does not have? And I'll say, sometimes we promote widget makers to become the manager of widget makers because they're very good widget makers. But the higher you go in an organization, the fewer technical skills you need. And the more, as Jennifer mentioned, broader leadership skills you need. You need to understand strategy. You need to be further seeing. You need to be able to lead. You need to be able to create compelling visions and motivations. And so I'll say that what you need to do is create a team that has complementary skills. Not every employee is going to have every skill to make the widgets. And so sometimes you have to bring people who specialize or complement the skills of people who are already on the team. And that's why, for those of you that are job searching and you think, I'm perfect for this job, I don't know why I got hired, because sometimes the leader is looking for something to complement what's already there, not necessarily to duplicate it. So I'll start with that comment. In terms of creating a high performance team, what I find is that you need certain things, and here are also the barriers to creating high performance teams, is knowledge. Do the people know what they need to do? Do they have the education, the knowledge, the training, the mentoring? Secondly, do they have the resources? Do they have the computer equipment? Do they have the software? Do they have the pen that they need to do their jobs well? Do they have the aptitude? You know what? I think I'm pretty smart and I can do a lot, but I'm pretty sure I could never be an astrophysicist. I know my limitations. That's part of my aptitude. So, do they have the aptitude and the capability to do the job? The attitude, are they actually high performers, but they leave a trail of dead bodies behind them? They step over, they cut corners or anything. Like they hit those targets all the time, but they just don't have that right attitude to be in a high performing team. And the last one I'll say, and I think Jennifer mentioned this too, is do they have the clear expectations of where, you know, what the leader or the organization has set, and do they know what they need to do and where they need to go in order to be that high performing individual uh, and team. And I really like UC's point about the diversity. You definitely need that on a team. Diversity in thought, diversity in culture, diversity in perspectives, diversity in background, and all of that you bring to the table with that diversity.
We will definitely come back and pick up the point on diversity and inclusion, because I feel that this is a slice of the conversation that needs its own space. Yuslin, did you want to add something that is not linked to D&I at this point?
Yes, I wanted to highlight something very important that Angela referenced, that each team member may not have all the necessary skills. And I think this is where we have an opportunity as the leaders to now build that the individual and train them and develop them and give them the professional development to be a better team member. And I think that would equal to the high performance team.
Yeah, and to that point, I think when you're looking at the name of this, whole thing, it's tactical and strategic, right? You have to start with the tactical, and that's kind of what you're talking about, identifying the skills. Who can actually do the job? Skill versus will. I have someone who might move up onto the strategic side because they have the want to, but we all need the people on the team that are the strong and steadies. Like, that's okay too. And so I think it's almost like a pyramid approach of how do you build that team, as opposed, you're never just going to walk into one. I don't know if you're a leader that walked into a high performance team, good for you. Like, I want to be you, but I don't know that many have that. And so it really takes the time, whether you're in a team right now that's not there, or you can always build one that's never just going to be that. So.
Well, for me, the next natural question is, what is the HR flavor of a high performance teams? What makes an HR team a high performing HR team? And Yuselin, would you like to give this one a go?
Yes. So I think for HR specifically, we start with the knowledge and the competencies, right? I think SHRM does a really great job at identifying those competencies and skill set that we need to be able to support people in culture. So I think having the knowledge or understanding and having a positive approach in dealing with people, right? HR is about people and culture. So knowledge base, first and foremost, is you have to understand different individuals, the type A, B, C personalities, and have the knowledge of the job that's being presented to you. And to what Angela and Jennifer said, having that clear expectation from that individual. So as a leader, I know exactly what I need to communicate to this new team member to say, hey, here's our culture. Here are the different people that is part of that culture. And then here's the job. And then so my job now is to really understand that job and then get to know the people and figure out how the culture works. So I think that is very, very important as it relates to the HR individual. And then there's everything else, right? Because we're the counselors, we're the teachers, we're just, all of this amazing package. And then so we have to really be able to understand the role, the job, and then get to know the people and really move and work towards the people and the goal and the individuals. So I would start there for HR.
Yeah, I think I'll kind of tell a story about myself with this one, just because I think it shows a little bit of this. So I was working, I had a team of 30. It was my largest team I'd ever had. We were doing employee relations, so not fun stuff. I thought we had a kick butt year, went to do my performance review, and my leader said, Jennifer, you're going to get an exceeds expectation because your team met all their goals, but I'll tell you what, your team does not know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know you as a person, because I was raised that work is work and home is home. And so it was very different. And so I think it's changed a lot for us. We have got to, show who we are as people, because people will work harder for those that they care about. People will work harder for those that they know. And so I do think that it's as important as it is to have the tactical side and know what they know, and, work with people, also being able to lead by example and say, here's what I believe. Here's what I think we can do. Here's where I'm seeing gaps. And here's where I want to be with our team in a year. And each of you play a part of that. You can choose to be a part of that, or you can choose not to. And then, providing all the training and skill behind that. But I think really being able to lead with that part of it, and speaking your mind about where you want to see them go and gaps is also very important. Because again, to everybody's point, if nobody knows where they're going, then there's no point. If you just have this like mountain in the distance and you're like, get there, then no one's going to really work that hard, because they don't know what they're working for.
Human resources, or people and culture, however you define the function or the team in your organization, they exist to enable the business to do its business, whether it's a for-profit, not-for-profit, government agency, whatever it is. We exist to help create the environment that allows that business to go on. And that could be because we are attracting, hiring, and retaining the right people that have the aptitude or the skills coming in to do the work. It is through, as Jennifer mentioned, dealing with employee relations, labor relations, the conflict in the workplace, and removing that, resolving that. It is building strong leaders, because managers have an outsized influence on how people perform and whether they're happy there and whether they're going to stay. And so focusing on building strong leadership through your hiring practices, through training, through exiting the ones that should be exited, really is the work of human resources. And so when you're talking about what is the flavor of high performance for HR, it is understanding, what business are you in? What does your organization do? And what does your industry look like? What is the competitive landscape? What does the economic environment look like? And then how do you, in human resources, individually, so whether you're a recruiter or an HR business partner, and then collectively as a people and culture team, how do you put initiatives in place in order to help the business do its business? So the high performance is the extent to which people and culture or human resources helps the business do its business. And I feel really, as you can tell, because I'm talking with my hands, I feel very strongly about this, that it's not just how many new employees can you enter into the database, into the payroll system. It's, are they the right people? Have we brought the right people in? And do we have the right programs, total rewards, policies in place to retain them, to help them grow, and to really build those strong leadership so that the business can do its business.
Angela, I love that so much. I think it totally hits on, the points of how many times as HR professionals do we get this person's not going to work out. They're just not for me. They shouldn't be here. And really being proactive on the front end to say, how do we do everything in the beginning to get it right from the beginning? So we're not just the task takers and the problem dealer with us. No, that's not great English. But how do we do that so that we can make sure that we get all those, we set up all the structures to get the people as opposed to the back end. I love that.
Jennifer, 100%. Yeah. And you just said, sorry, Yuseline, I just stepped in.
Go ahead.
Sorry. You just said task takers, and it just pinged my brain, because as long as the HR department are order takers, you're right, the managers, the leaders come and say, I need you to do this. I need you to fire these people. I need you to put on this training course. And we just take the orders and do it. We are not a high performing team. We are not a high performing function that adds value to the organization. Sorry, I just wanted to jump. Sorry.
Yusrin.
No, I agree 100% with both of you. What I wanted to add is the HR flavor also needs to be very patient and very kind, because I think how we identify or how we build our team all depends on how we react to the individual as they come. New individuals, as Angela mentioned earlier, are not going to have all the skill set, and that's okay. And as leaders, we have to say, okay, I understand, and it's okay. But now it's my responsibility to make sure that I do develop and train you, but also hold you accountable. So when you do not perform, I'm able to evaluate, like Angela said, and transition who I need to transition. But HR has to be realistic. Like everybody's not going to come 100% great. It's challenging. We have to be patient, we have to be kind, and we have to listen. And those additional flavors from an HR professional will help us to then identify the individuals where they need help the most. Is it more of the tactical? Do they need more team? Do they need bandwidth? Do they need, the technical skill sets? Or do they need to learn how to work in a team themselves? So if we're not patient as we're receiving and learning about our team members, we're not going to be able to build them and be able to provide them and guide them. So I wanted to make sure that I added that point.
Thank you. Jennifer, I saw you unmuted there a couple of times.
No, I was just going to add in, I think that's such a great point about the patience, because nobody really wants to come to HR. How many times do we hear that? Oh, got to go talk to HR. And so how are we going to build high performing teams for ourselves and for the company if we are not approachable and nobody wants to come to us with all the small things? They only come to us with the big things, because the reality is 9 times out of 10, we don't get to hear all the great stuff that's going on. We only hear about the problems. So how do we flip it on its head, to your point, and say like, okay, let's talk about the good stuff and get there so that we can be both and be patient and kind and make it a conversation and not a, oh God, I've got to go to HR and find out how to do this. So.
Well, all this incredible energy that you all brought into the conversation brought us to almost the middle of our time together today. So I knew it was going to be too short, but what I'm hearing in everything that you shared so far is that building high performance teams does take a village. So my next question is, who are the villagers, and how are the accountabilities and the responsibilities being distributed and assigned? Because it is definitely not an HR thing. I will give you a few seconds, just as I will welcome everybody who jumped on the link a little bit later. And before we start getting those questions, I will anticipate them. This conversation is being recorded, so you can always go back and re-listen and maybe, who knows, even recommend it to your colleagues, either through our LinkedIn space or hackinghrlab.io. Now, Jennifer, would you lead us into this next slice of the conversation? Who's your village?
So I have my biggest thing with my village is that I try to make sure it's people that are not like me, because it's really easy to, when you're interviewing, when you're trying to get a promotion for someone on your team, to have people that are like you be a part of that process. And I purposely go out of my way to say, who are the people that I might struggle with in meetings, that I might have very differing opinions, that are other leaders, and say, hey, I want you to be the one to keep me in check. I want you to help me find the team, because that is the only way. We are humans. We are drawn to the people that are like us. And so to be able to say, I'm purposely going to go out of my way to make sure that I get the best team, the most diverse team, the most diversity of thought on my team is the best way. And then I think on the flip side, being honest with your peers, with the people that are also trying to build high performing teams, to have cross-departmental conversations, cross-departmental projects, and sharing the good and the bad, to say like, hey, I saw this person on your team. They did a really great job. I was so impressed with how they presented themselves, with how they, communicated your purpose and kicked off this meeting, all the way to, hey, I think this person could really benefit from a public speaking course. They really struggled to get their ideas out. I can see them being successful. They had all the data there. They just weren't able to communicate it. So I think it all comes from cross-departmental partnerships and finding the villagers, like you said, that are not like you.
Angela.
So my career has been littered with opportunities. Sorry, littered was the wrong word. Blessed with opportunities. Seriously, I meant blessed. Where I come in and have been asked to transform often the HR people and culture team from very task takers to high performance. And so, Jennifer mentioned earlier in this conversation that you don't often walk in and inherit a high performing team. It's very unusual. And if you do have that, like, awesome, hang on to that. But sometimes a new leader is brought in because the organization or the department are going through a change and they're actually looking for something different. Maybe they're introducing new technology, new processes. Maybe there's been a merger and acquisition or something that's requiring a change. And so here is how I build my village. First of all, I mentioned earlier that the things you need to look for individually and assess in your employees or in your team is, do they have the knowledge, like the education, the background, the training, the mentoring, whatever, to do the job? Do they have the tools? I walked into my last job, and the recruiter at the time was criticized very, very highly. And in my first week, sat down with her, she was using an Excel sheet and email to take in hundreds of candidates per job posting. It was unbelievable. Like, she couldn't keep up. And so she didn't have the tools. So of course, you put in an applicant tracking system, whatever. Do you have the aptitude for it? Like, I'm never going to be the astrophysicist. It's just never going to happen. The attitude and the expectations. But then when you're assessing the team beyond that, and when you're bringing in new people, I look at two things. Does a person have learning agility? Because if you have learning agility, anytime the organization is going through a change, they're introducing technology, they've got new leadership, they changed the mission, the yearly goals, the person will learn, grow, and adapt, as opposed to resist it and say, we always done it this way. So learning agility is very important. The second thing that I look for in my villagers is people with strong emotional intelligence. I not only look to hire people with it, but I look to build it in my team and in the team of the organization. And earlier, Helena, I've skipped the comment, but Helena had a question about the dysfunctional person who tends to take over. It's really important for the human resources group, when they're recruiting, to look for candidates that have emotional intelligence. But if you're stuck with people who don't have that and they are creating dysfunction, we can work with the leaders to help create that emotional intelligence through training, through coaching, through mentoring. At some point, if the person is completely dysfunctional or toxic or disruptive to a high-performing team, sometimes the right answer is actually to exit them. You don't have to keep everybody if they're not the right people and are a barrier or creating toxicity for other people. Just wanted to jump in on Helena's question there.
Thank you. Yuslin.
Sure. So my village is everybody. I tap into everybody in the organization. So my leadership, right, communicating upward, making sure that they know at all times what's going on, because when I need them to jump in, I need them to jump in. And then my team are my villagers. But as I recruit and build the teams, what I think I look for sure is the emotional intelligence, right? And then how much do they know about the job and care about the job that they're going to be producing, right? We can always hire someone because they look great on paper. But as we interview and we meet and we introduce them to the team, you want to see what that chemistry is like. So for me, my villages, I look for chemistry. We're not always going to be great at everything, but I want to be able to make sure that everybody has a good rapport so that everybody is respecting each other. So I look for that emotional intelligence. I look for that chemistry, and I look for the communication. I do not want a yes person on my team. I need an individual person in my village who is going to challenge me, not disrespect, but challenge my thoughts, ask the questions as we communicate and guide. I think that's important. The other thing I do when I am looking for my villagers is how do they take on task? So I'm the type of person, I'm very visual, but I want you to read information that I'm sharing. I want you to see my face. And I also want you to hear. So I communicate across the board, upward and downward. And then I follow up. I'm in your face. I want to know where, what, who. And that comes from personal experience because, as Angela referenced earlier, holding each other accountable is something that is challenging within itself. We hire individuals who we think that the job, get it done. That's the expectation. But we also have to hold them accountable when the job is not done. It's not just, hey, you're a rock star, let's do it. And I say that because, as we identify the villagers and the things that are going to be important within the village for the teams, you have to make sure that you have those individuals who, when you do hold them accountable, are there actions that's going to take place? And then when you do hold them accountable, are you the one taking the actions? Are you following up? So I think the village needs to be a diverse pool of individuals in skill set. Definitely rely on emotional intelligence for sure, and make sure that the individual is ready to learn. I think Angela mentioned learning agility. HR, it's been always a very manual task, and then we became semi-manual. So the transition from manual to semi-manual, now to technical, that individual have to be able to move as those transitioning are happening. I think that's important in the village and within the team to be able to move and learn along the way.
Yeah.
I also, oh, sorry, I just wanted to add in on that part. I think having people that are risk takers, like people that are willing to say yes to things before they're totally ready. Because I think if you have people on your team that are saying, I'm not 100% sure I'm ready for that role, but I'll say yes, and then I'll figure it out. Like eternal students is so great, and I say this from personal experience. I had a teaching background. I taught interstudy 7th grade math, moved into HR, I've done a little bit of everything. And I really say this, my one superpower is saying yes to things I'm not ready for. And I look for that in others because I think that means you are willing to think outside of the box. You have a background that lends itself to thinking about other ways of doing business than just traditional HR. And so being able to say yes, go into operations, go into sales, understand the business. And I think having people that are willing to do those things and take a bet on themselves is just huge. And I don't think we put enough weight in that. And then I did want to comment real quick on the chat about the tech industry. I am currently in the tech industry. And I think the engineering teams are hard for us as HR leaders because they're so black and white. And we don't think in black and white. We see everything in gray. And so I think when you're talking to tech teams or leaders or anything like any team really that's very yes or no, black, white, it's a sale, it's a not, really thinking through like, okay, how can I communicate in their terms? How can I help them see, okay, you are saying this person is a yes or this person is a no. Why are they a no? What are they not doing? Their brains don't work like that, just like our brains don't work like theirs. And so really taking the time to understand their perspective and ask why and get to the bottom of it, as opposed to yes, no, done, I think is really important. And helping those leaders understand that, just like they help us see their side when they're writing code or whatever the case is. So just wanted to comment on that real quick.
Angela.
3 really quick points. Jennifer, I love I love what you said. My entire book, The Squiggly Line Career, was about going into operations, going to marketing, change professions, because the more you understand how business works and is interdependent, the better you are at whatever role you end up in. The second thing I wanted to say about tech or engineers and very black and white is when you build credibility as an HR professional, as a leader, as a team with the organization and with the leaders of the other departments like engineering, then you can say, listen, I know you really want to hire this person because he reminds you of exactly you, but trust me on this, let's give this one a try. And so when you build credibility and trust with the rest of the organization, and you've learned to speak their language, so you're using words they use and not fluffy HR terms. Sorry, HR terms are not fluffy, but to them they are. then you're more likely to let them allow you to like, just trust me on this. Let's just hire this person, see how it goes, and I'll work with you. You really need that trust and credibility.
Well, we are very aware and we want to be very mindful of the people in the audience who are an HR function of one. So I would invite each of you, if we can take a few minutes and give them some actionable insights on how they can best focus their even more limited energy and bandwidth to most meaningfully help teams within their organizations to become high performing teams. And again, this is a popcorn style question. Just pop into the conversation as you feel inspired. So HR function of one, how can they best focus their support and energy?
This one rings really true to me because I am an HR person of one, and I came from an organization where I was not. I was one of 250 HR people, and I don't think I knew what I didn't know. Thank goodness. So, coming from that to a team of one, you learn a lot along the way. But I think the biggest thing I've learned is you are going to have to get comfortable with inserting yourself. That is just how it has to be. And I call myself like the lovely little bee that buzzes around. I'm like, I want to know everything. I want to insert myself in conversations, even if I'm there just to learn. Kind of, Angela, to your point, I am not a good HR partner unless I know what's going on in the business, unless I can speak about EBITDA and ARR and where we are in our Series A and things like that. I think is so important because, like you said, if you can't speak their speak, it goes right over their head and they're going to want nothing to do with you and you're not going to be. But you are going to have to insert yourself. And then my second thing is you are going to have to block off time to be strategic. It feels weird to block your calendar to just like put think time, or there was a question about performance reviews. There were weeks where I had hours blocked off to research performance reviews, think through performance reviews, get feedback from people on performance reviews. It just feels weird, but you just got to get used to it. So insert yourself and set time for you to learn and see what other companies like yours are doing so that way you can be the best leader. Yeah.
No, agree 100%. So for an HR department of one, you're going to learn by experience, no matter what. Experience that you'll learn from and experience that you'll probably want to never try to look back on. But I think what's important is that you have to be able to learn, right? An individual of one, use SHRM. SHRM has a knowledge, personally, that's how I built my career, has a knowledge center that has advisors, because as a department of one, you don't have anyone, but they have the advisors there that will be able to talk through some of the day-to-day tasks to be able to, because sometimes we feel like, okay, maybe it's not the right thing. I'm the only person that I'm talking to. So how do I know it's the right thing? So that advisor center is definitely one resource that I highly recommend. And I've personally used it throughout my entire career. And then also to answer the question in the audience about performance reviews, it is important to make sure that it is an ongoing effort, especially with the department of one, that you are communicating and looking to see where are you performing better. The leaders or the relying on you as a HR department of one. So you have to communicate with them. Am I doing a good job? Are you getting your answers, your questions answered from me? Am I producing and giving you the task? Am I following up? So that's the performance and the feedback within yourself for a department of one. But as you build your team, you want to schedule time and make it an ongoing feedback, weekly meetings, monthly meetings, department meetings. And as you said, insert yourself in the different type of meetings and plannings you need to, so that HR knows what's going on, that you have an ear at the table, not just a seat at the table, but you need to hear what's going on company-wise, organizational-wide, so that you can go ahead and be able to provide the solutions thereafter. So I think it's important that as a one person, a one woman or one man show, you're small, but you're mighty. So you definitely have to be willing to learn. And then the last thing I'll say is automate where and when possible, because as a one person show, HR is so manual and it's very task driven. So you have to try to leverage whenever and wherever you can, whether it's Excel spreadsheet and HRIS, which is godsend over the years. You don't have to implement the entire system all at one time. There are different modules that you can do one at a time to be able to alleviate some of the task than to allow your HR department of one to grow, and to make sure that you have the relationship with the leaders. If you don't have relationship with leaders, whether you're a HR department of one, two, or three, you're not going to be able to be productive. So it's just a combination of things, and you have to be bold. Like, I don't know it all, but I'm going to act like I know it all, and I'm going to look for the answers, and I'm going to call Angela, I'm going to call Jennifer, I'm going to call Manola, hey, let me run something by you. I'm not sure. We have to use each other. And I think that's how we end up building each other, and we build our teams along the way, because they see us as, oh, my manager calls people for thoughts and for questions. I guess she's a normal person like I am. So we have to be able to show that individually we are growing, we are building, and then they feed off of us a lot of the times. So that's just my experience.
I love this. And one thing that I'm also hearing in the background is that we can do anything, but we cannot do everything. Angela, I saw you unmuted there. Do you want to add something?
Yes, I agree so much with what my fellow panelists said, and I love that expression was one that my former CEO used to say. So one of the challenges that departments of one fall into is that they sometimes are expected to do all the transactional stuff, right? Entering the people into new hires into the payroll database and doing the exit interviews and writing the offer letters. Like they do the transactional stuff often because there's nobody else around. And so to build on what my fellow panelists say, go with the theory of build, buy, and borrow. So what can you build yourself that's more strategic, that helps the organization be more self-sufficient? So to Yuselin's point about the HRIS, can you enable the self-service function so that every time an employee has an address change, they're not phoning you so you can go in and change their address, right? What can you buy? So can you partner with an external training provider or somebody who does background checks if that's something that your organization needs to do? What can you borrow? So can you have people in the operations be part of your training team? Can you call on them and borrow them? Can you use university students who are looking for co-op opportunities to help you build programs? And I so love what Yuselin said, which is tap into your network. I noticed there's a lot of people who are not in the United States on this call. SHRM is predominantly, though not exclusively, an organization in the United States that a lot of American HR folks belong to. There's a Canadian equivalent, CPHR, but across the world. But even if you don't belong to any association, network with people that are in the people and culture, human resources profession, through your school, through your industry, phone them up, get a monthly or bi-monthly group together and tap into that network, because you do not have to do it all by yourself.
Angela, I could not agree with you more. I will tell you, I am the shameless person that hears a person on Hacking HR, gets on LinkedIn, immediately says, I'm like, hey, can I book a call? I just want to connect with you, because it can be so lonely. Like when you're a team of one, it's so, even if it's not about, hey, I need something from you, it's, hey, I just want to connect with you. I want to hear about what you do. I want to hear about what you're doing with your teams. And then you have that resource later. Don't be afraid. Reach out to people on the internet. There's so many smart people here. Like you got to do it. It's better for you.
So we are right here on the threshold of the last 10 minutes. And this is such a painful thing to say, really. I will preface the next, and potentially, I'm not making any promises just yet, last question of today with a short confession. I have grown very tense relationship with the following word, and that is resilience. Because on one hand, I can fully recognize and acknowledge and harness its power, which is our power to bounce forward rather than simply bouncing back. I love this definition of success from Sir Winston Churchill, that success is moving from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And I feel a lot of resilience baked into this. But at the same time, I do feel, and this is where I start to feel uncomfortable. I oftentimes feel that resilience in some workplaces is still used as a more elegant way to say, basically, suck it up, buttercup. And the conversation gets a little bit lopsided on ever increasing requests and expectations for individual personal resilience, as if somehow to overcompensate for sometimes lack of organizational resilience, lack of process resilience, lack of governance resilience. So I would invite you to, let's just take a few minutes and talk about resilience holistically. What does resilience mean for a high performing team, personally, at team level, at process level? So who would like to go first? Angela.
Manola, I'm one of those people that uses the word resilience a lot. And I agree with what you said. People have started weaponizing that word to mean it exactly that. Suck it up and move on. For me, resilience for individuals and for teams or organizations means change readiness. Change readiness means knowing that things will not stay the same. New technology will come in, new competitors, artificial intelligence, mergers, new leaders, things will change. So if you start with the mindset as an individual and as a team that things will change, you ask yourself, what do I need to do in order to be ready for that change? How do I keep my skills up to date and current? And attending something like Hacking HR series is a great start. Who do I need to tap into? What else do I need to know? Even things like keeping your resume up to date is resilience. And then organizationally, how do you continue to provide that support so that when an individual or team has a setback, resilience isn't suck it up, buttercup. It's getting together and say, listen, do we need to grieve this for a moment, for a period? Let's grieve it together. What do you need? Do you need support? Do you need counseling? Okay, now together, what do we need to move on past this? Do we need to leave it behind? Do we need to build on the failure? Do we need to ignore it? What is it that we need to do together? To me, that's the resilience part, is the change readiness, and then the support to help you individually or together get past it.
I think for me, I love what you just said, Angela, and I will build on that one. For me, it's radical self-awareness. I don't think anybody can be a part of a team or lead an organization if you don't first take whatever happens in that change, whatever happens in that day, to take a moment and say, where am I with this? Because you think you hide it well, you don't. Nobody does. And so it's to say, like, my resiliency is in the fact that I'm going to first think about, how do I need to show up for myself? How do I need to show up for my team? How do I need to show up for the organization, knowing I'm feeling great, not great, still dealing with it, whatever the case is. And then how do I make sure that I'm communicating that in the right way? But if you are thinking that you're just going to say, okay, I'm going to move on with this and be resilient for everybody else, it's not going to work. You have got to be self-aware for everybody around you, and yourself included. And then that's the only way you're going to get through the good, the bad, the ugly, any of that is by constantly reassessing your state, who you want to be in that moment, and how you want to help the people around you.
Oh, I agree with you both. For me, I'll add resilience is me as a leader being available to the individuals within the organization, being available to the leaders, being available to my individual staff, so that when they feel like I need to suck it up and get it done, that I'm here and available to help them. I think as we build resiliency and build the teams, we have to make sure that we're available to be able to guide and support. But no, I agree with you, Manila. It's not just suck it up, buttercup, and let's get it over done. have I given you the tools and the resources that you need to suck it up and get it done, right? Mental health day, or, time on your calendar, as Jennifer mentioned earlier, to actually work on projects and task specific. I block out lunchtime. I block out morning time to go through emails so that I'm not responding just to respond, but I'm responding with a solution. And I block time in the afternoon to be able to get through the day to see what are some of the key important things that I need to get through by the end of the day. And that is part of building the real resilience, right? There's also discipline when it comes to resilience. So being a leader who is available and ready to help, and building that discipline so that when you feel like you are just exhausted and you need to suck it up, that you can come to me and say, here's where I am. I need your help, and I'm going to be ready to do it and be able to support you. So for me, that's resilient. You build it within yourself, you build it to each other, and it just becomes one of those contagious things that happens right across the board. And you're not going to get it right the first time ever. But I think both Angela and Jennifer mentioned earlier about having that relationship so that you are able to come to me when you feel like, hey, I'm stressing you out. It's not just you that needs to suck it up. I'm the one who's stressing you out, and you feel like you have to suck it up because I'm making you do it. But I want you to be able to come to me and say, hey, I know what the expectation is, and I'm resilient enough to get it done. But Yuslin, I need a little time and I need a little help. So I want you to be okay to do that. And so that's part of the resilience building for me.
Thank you all. And well, here we are, literally few minutes away from saying goodbye. And the last question, and this time I can promise that it's the last question. Can you please just leave our audience with one skill that any HR practitioner looking to profoundly impact a team can develop? And you know by now that extra ice cream is available for those of you who come up with skills that are not automatically linked to this type of work. So an outlier skill that would help an HR practitioner to show up meaningfully for a team.
I'll start by saying business acumen. And by that, I mean understanding what your business does, how it makes money, or how it gets donors if it's a not-for-profit, or how it serves its population if it's government. Speaking its language. Jennifer mentioned know what things like EBITDA means and why it's important. What are your competitors doing? What is the environment? What is the industry? Where are you heading? Speak the language of your business. So business acumen is the number one skill for a high-performing HR team.
Thank you.
And
Yuslin, I saw you unmuted, and then we will wrap up with Jennifer. Yuslin.
Okay. Only one, Manila? There's so many.
One. And
One.
okay, maybe two if you can speak very, very quickly.
So I definitely think that communication, right, is so important in building the teams. You have to be able to tell them what you want, what you don't want, what the expectations are, and what are we working towards. So communication is number one. And then the second one for me is personal and professional development. I think that as we are building teams and ourselves, we have to be open to grow and learn, but also be able to provide the development to individuals to make them better and stronger.
Thank you.
I was going to I actually stole mine, business acumen, but I think I'll come up with another one. I think the other one is really, well, I have two now. One, having the courage to ask questions. I think as HR, we're afraid that we're going to be seen as dumb, or we're not going to, oh my gosh, I should know that. Don't ask the questions. Say, what does that term mean? What's that acronym? How does that play here? I'm telling you, you'll get more bang for your buck by people saying, wow, you ask great questions than just pretending you know. And then I think the second thing is just really making sure that you understand what kind of leader you want to be first. How do you want to show up as a leader? And if that's, think of it as this way. I always tell everybody, you're on a stage at the end of your career getting an award as the top whatever you want to be. What are the 2 to 3 things you're recognized for? And start working on those every single day. Because if you are able to confidently say, this is the type of leader I am, I show up for my team, I communicate well, and I know my business, you're going to work on that every single day. Put it on a Post-it note, write on your screen, and make sure that those are the 3 things that you're driving towards. Because if you can't do that, nobody else, you're not going to be able to help anybody else be a better leader. So those are mine.
Jennifer, Angela, and Yuselin, thank you so very much for being here today. It was such a gift just having this front row seat exposure to our conversation. Thank you, everybody in the audience. I did see a few questions popping up. You can find the recording even at this link that you're viewing the live now in just a couple of minutes, and you can reshare that. Jessa, thank you so very much for yet again taking great care of us. Enrique, for creating the space. And until next time, may you show up for yourselves and your teams with curiosity, courage, and compassion. Thank you, everyone. And I'm looking forward to welcoming you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.